So before learning about Android pen testing, we first need to know about the architecture of the Android, because that's what you are going to need at first, because you need to learn that thing first. So if you have a clear idea of what are the structure of Android or how an Android architecture is, then you will have very clear idea of how things are going to work for you, like which applications and what framework, what libraries are running on which part of the Android. So if you already know that particular thing, then it will be easy for you to hack into the application and get sensitive data or any other features that you intend to. So generally, the applications or an Android architecture is divided into four parts: application, application framework, then library, and the kernel, right? So as you can see, the topmost layer is the Android applications. So whenever we are talking about the Android applications, we have all of the surface level things. That is we can see the home, contacts, phone, browser, and all the applications that you use in your daily to day life in your phone. So it can be your any social media application like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, or whatever. It can be any kind of other service that you are using daily, like Google Chrome or any kind of other browser, or any app like any games that you play. So all the application runs on the topmost layer. Okay. Under this need, there comes the application framework layer. So here all the activity manager, your APK manager, your file manager basically, the telephone manager, resource manager, location manager, content provider, all these lie under the application framework. So, and this application framework is the layer that manage how these applications are going to run, how these managers are going to operate. So if you ask for any file, then the request will go directly into the application framework and you will get the particular file. Underneath the come of the libraries. So there are different type of libraries in the Android architecture. You can see the Surface Manager is there. So if it's built on SQLite, the library will be SQLite, OpenGL, SGL. If any particular application is running any SSL framework, then SSL will be there. Media framework for any type of audio and video executive. libc is there, and any other thing. But to run an Android, that you basically need are the code library, which is also known as the Android Runtime or ART. Earlier, this particular thing was known as Dalvik VM or known as Dalvik Virtual Machine. But that concept was obliterated in nowadays because this Dalvik VM or Dalvik Virtual Machine is now converted into Android Runtime or ART as we say now, right? So next come and the innermost layer is the Linux kernel. So kernel is the, you can say, kind of the mother layer on top of which every layer has lies, and your all the display driver, your flash memory, audio drivers, display, Wi-Fi, keypad driver, IPC, power management, all these particular driver are installed in your Linux kernel. So if your kernel gets corrupt or any rootkit has taken or any vulnerability has taken control over this particular kernel, then basically, literally your whole system can be pawned or your whole system can be flawed. And on the basis of that, an attacker can perform any kind of movement on your application. Yeah, Rohit, you can say root, kind of root permission, you can say that. So this is how the basic Android architecture looks like. I hope this part is very clear to you. Next, we are going for the Android security model. So we basically need to know how an application or an APK runs. So whenever you are installing any kind of APK, so Android is providing that particular APK a separate UID, or UID means user ID. Okay, so this user ID separation is very much important. So just like if you log into a website or if you make a user, so suppose you register in a particular website, you will be given a specific user ID. Okay, and that user ID will be unique to. Suppose you have a user ID of 9935 or 8650 or 32 or any kind of digit. And that user ID will be unique to only you. So just like that happens in the website, every user has a separate unique user ID. Same whenever you install any kind of APK or install any kind of application on your Android framework or on your phone, Android security module does what? It provides a separate UID allocation to that particular APK. So if you try, we will see this later. Whenever we'll try to access our Android through ADB, we will see how each application has its separate UID. And the next thing that another thing that Android security module provides is sandboxing. So this sandboxing feature is important. So for each APK, Android provides its own sandbox so that its particular thing cannot get access, so that each particular content provider or broadcast receiver or any kind of application or any kind of framework that the particular APK using cannot be accessed by another application. Though it can be possible by leveraging some ways, by penetrating into it, by bypassing all the security checks. But generally, Android provides a very light kind of sandbox. So all the intents, all the web filters, all the broadcast receivers doesn't get mingle up. Okay, so one application doesn't overlap on other applications thing. So that's why they provide a unique kind of sandboxing to whenever you install a new application on your phone. So it's occurred just like this. So this is the way how Android security module makes an UID separation and sandboxing. So I think up to this part you have got guys, right? So UID separation is just like providing a separate user ID, and sandboxing is like it provides a new sandbox, or it provides a separate environment, or you can say a container environment for any kind of application or APK that you are going to install in a particular system, right? Next comes that is very important for us to understand before going into the Android pen testing is Android components. So application components are the essential building blocks of an Android application that you can say. And there are 5 important Android components that we always get to know about. And they mainly are the activities, services, broadcast receiver, content providers, and additional component. So all these 5 components of Android are very much important for a particular application or the Android framework to work. Because if any of the particular component doesn't work properly, or any of the particular components has any kind of flaws, then things will not occur as per what you have thought of, or things might get misconfigured. So first come to the part of activities. So activities generally represent the UI screens or user ID screen in an application, and it generally handles any kind of user interaction. And what services do? Services perform all kind of background tasks such as playing music or fetching data from file system or any other. Now, what broadcast receiver does is it responds to system-wide broadcast announcement, such as any kind of alerts, such as notification, low battery, okay, this type of things. And what does content provider does? Content provider generally manage shared app data and facilitate data access and sharing between app. Suppose you can say, think of like, suppose you are running you already installed app, you are running an application which uses Google OAuth features to log into it. So whenever you are just logging into that particular application using the Google OAuth is fetching the application is data from your Google profile. So that particular thing is being done by the content provider. Or if any applications is dependent on another application to run on, then that particular thing will also be done by the content provider. Or suppose content provider, you can also think of like suppose you are opening a link in a particular which is embedded in a Android application, and that particular thing is now viewed in your browser. Okay, so that particular feature is also done by the content provider, you can say. And in additional component, there can be intents, which you can intent such generally messaging objects that facilitate communication between services and component. There might be fragments, there might be view and viewed groups, which are generally container, which are used to create app interfaces. And there can be a base class for maintaining global application state. So all these other features like intents, view groups, fragments, and application come out additional component. But the main features are activities, services, broadcast receiver, and content provider. And that's what the vulnerability lies, and that's why which as an attacker you will exploit to find flaw in it, right? Now let's go to the contents of an APK file. So let's see what are the different types of component that we can generally find in an APK. So for this reason, Uh, Let me share the screen. So as you can see, I hope you are able to view my whole screen. So now, as you can see, if I go directly to any particular, so I have a lot of APK that I have installed and I generally use. So let's take this particular APK. Let's take this Zomato application. Let's say, okay, no, so I have not downloaded the Zomato application. It's not downloaded, so I have downloaded this particular vulnerable application. So let's take this particular application in your Android. Okay, and I will try to open it with the help of a editor which is known as JADX. And let's open this Enjoyed APK. Now we can see all whatever the component that are present in the APK file are now deposited in this JDK. Okay, so here we can actually understand what are actually the content that are present in a APK file. So if we just go deeper into it, like we can open any kind of thing. Let's suppose this is the source code, all the source codes have been done. This is the resource that have been shared. So if you open resources, you will find the one of the very popular is the Android manifest.xml, right? So you can see all the structure that is the how what is Android manifest. You will see all whatever that are present in the application have been coded here. If you look at the source code, you will see a lot of files that are exactly present. But the main file are the resources file, the liberation file, which is the leaf file, and assets, metadata. Or there is a lot of ways that you can particularly open a particular applications whenever you see a contents. The most important features are generally the source code, and there will be also a resource.arc, which is also very important. There is an APK signature always, because this signature will be different for your different apps. Okay, like you will see the MD5 or SH or SH256 fingerprint, this will be different for different APK. So whatever APK or any kind of app you are installing, it will be different on the basis of each app, right? Then the resources I told, and one of the most important file of the resources in the Android manifest.xml. And because depending upon the Android manifest.xml, we get a lot of data, and seeing the exported activities and lot of other activities that are going on in the Android manifest.xml, actually, we will actually get to see a hell lot of things. So that we will actually see later in the future part of today's webinar. But before this, you can see these are all the things that you can find. You can see under resources, there are assets file. You can this, so this particular app is made of Flutter. So you can see there's the Flutter folder, and under Flutter folder, there are a lot of things. You can see the liberation package, the meta INF package that I was telling. These are the generally the important files that always you need to understand in case of a contents of a APK file. So basically the important components are the assets, the liberation file, the lib, meta INF, and the resources. Okay, and under all these, the Android manifest.xml that I am told, and also there is also a file that is known as that is resources.asc, that is this one, that is the resources.arc. This is also another important file, and another file will be there, that is the classes.dex, and this dex file will be also be important. So the dex file that we are generally there can be later converted into SO files. Okay, so these are the general contents that you will generally see in kind of any kind of APK. So let me just come back. So coming to the next part, we will learn about, and the today's topic will be Android security testing. So basically, we will be learning about the different type of testing that we can perform. So there are two type of testing. First is the static testing and second is the dynamic testing. So while static testing involve reversing the application and read the code, and dynamic testing involve analyzing the network traffic. So basically static testing is just nothing, just the thing I have done. We will open it with the JADX or any other application. There are a lot of application actually apart. You don't need to use JADX. You can use any other application for sure. And after that, what we will perform is we will perform analysis of all the codes, and we will find if there are any kind of hard-coded string, if we will find if there are other kind of activities, like if there are insecure content providers are there or any other things are there, right? So we will actually perform this all that we can perform all these type of things while performing any static testing. And dynamic testing is nothing actually. It's basically the same, just the way you actually test a particular web application. You open your Bob suite, you get all that traffic in your Bob suite. It's kind of same. So we after if a particular Android is connecting with the internet or it has any kind of API configuration in it. So basically dynamic tracing is the same in case of Android application. We will use Bob suite to get all of the traffics that are present in APK files or sorry, or that are connecting the application through the internet, and we'll perform all the tests that we generally perform in case of web. It will be the similar in case of the Android in dynamic testing. So basically it will be kind of same. So you can see the static analysis of APK file, just the way I used JADX. So this is just a features of using the same. I'm coming to the deeper part of how we can find a lot of things in it. So let's start and let's see. So basically I will be using Android emulator. So let me just share my whole screen once again. Now, so I will be taking reference using Android Studio. The reason why I use Android Studio is because you can also perform any kind of coding thing. If I want to develop any particular features, I can just code it in the Android Studio. You can also use any kind of Android emulator, like you can use Genymotion, you can use other Android emulator like Blue Surf is there, I think, and all the other emulator that are out there in the market, you can download and use any of those. So it doesn't matter actually. Okay, so can you please name some different tools for SaaS testing? Yeah, I will just come to the point later on. The different tool for SaaS testing in case of Android. Yeah, we can use Nox also. You can use any kind of, but the problem with Nox is it's very, there is, you can't actually, if you are installing Nox on your host machine, then you can't be able to access the Nox from your virtual machine. So that is one problem I have particularly faced in case of Nox. So that's why I have stopped using Nox. So you can only install it in your Windows, and there is no Linux application for installing Nox, and also you can't access it through your VM. So that's one of the problem of Nox I have faced. So let's start our Android emulator. And I have already configured all the specifications, so it's generally easy. You can also configure yourself by seeing any YouTube video, like any Android development. But if you are already into Android development, you will already know how to create an Android emulator in through Android Studio. It's just nothing is there. Okay, and I will be using Injured Android as one of the text application. Okay, so Injured Android looks like this. So this is a vulnerable Android application actually that I am going to use. Okay, so this is a CTF kind of applications, and it has a lot of vulnerability inside it. And I am going to use this particular Android to show you the demo. Okay, so I have already installed the application, and if you know, I have already also opened the application in my JADX, right? So let's start with the first. Let's start with the first flag. So we can see it says prompting us for a login activity, and we are told to input a flag. So let's see if any random thing will work or not. Uh, As you can see, we are not getting any kind of flag. No worries. So there is a button and you can see it's written the flag is right under your nose. The flag is also under the GUI. So when we are clicking this particular button, we are getting two what? The flag is also under the GUI and the flag is under your node. Now let's look at the source code. Okay. So in source code, we can already see the injured Android folder is there. And we can see for each activity, there is a file. So our first is the login activity, right? So we'll look at this particular code. So if we observe the code in a very fine way, we can see, let's see what it has stored for us. So we can see there is a flag one login activity. So this is the way it's been written. So it's telling if flag login activity is equal to 0, then you have to show us the flag is right under your node. So this particular, I think, and this is also saying the flag is also under GUI. So this is a particular code for this particular button feature, right? And it is setting snack bar as input and other also. So let's see what is the point for submit. Let's see what is the code for submits. So if we just come down and if we read, right, they are creating a bundle and they are checking an activity for login. You can see this. Then they are trying to find something by ID and then they are checking for listener. Okay. This is the way for submit flag. Okay. So for submitting flag, they are taking a text and they are storing it in the form of variable and then they are matching this particular variable. You can see the variable is d.s.d.g.d. Now they are matching to a string and you can see the what they are matching to the string is written. So this is actually a very good, I might be you have guessed the flag because they are whatever they are taking in input as a text, they are matching it to this flag on 3. So we'll just copy this and let's put it here. Actually control V doesn't work in the emulator. So I have to and also paste and I will remove the first R1 and then let's click on submit and we have find a flag. See, so this is how we can find our first flag. CTF meaning capture the flag. Okay, I am coming to all these questions later on. Don't worry. Technical question. Now, let's go and see what we can perform in the second part. So let's just go back and let's check in the flag 2. So there is a second one where they are showing how to perform an exported activity, I guess. So let's click and it's saying there is a way to bypass the main activity and invoke other activities that are exported. Now, this is an exported activities is a very important feature when it comes to any kind of Android application. Now ask me why. Because if a particular activity is exported, then that means it is communicating with the internal Android architecture. Okay, so you can access any if a particular thing is exported, then not only if on depending on what type of thing it's being exported, it actually can communicate with other application also. It can also communicate with the Android internal system also. So that's the very important way of telling what is it is in configuration.example. Let me just see. Yeah, so it can communicate with any other part also, right? So at first, there is also this something that is told to us. There is a way to bypass the main activity and invoke other activities that are exported. So at first, we need to find what are the activities that are exported and how to see which activity are exported. So we can see in order to check which activities are exported, we need to check the Android manifest.xml file because here everything will be written what activities are exported. So the best way to find is just use Control F and say exported and we have to look for all that which are exported equal to true. Okay, so you can see there are a lot of activities we will see where exported equal to false is there, but that is false one are not our headache. Our headache is exported equal to true. And let's see what activities are export. So first is there is a intent activity. You can see title Android exported productive intent, and this exported activity is set to true. Second thing that is exported to true is there is something known as bnacandroid.qxviewer. So this activity is also set to true. Okay. And third is this particular activity bnx3.injure.b25l activity is set to true. Also a flag 5 receiver is set to true. And also you can see there is a Firebase component which is Google Firebase, that is also no, and this exported is false. So we will avoid this. So this is what I am telling. We don't need to check for the activities which are exported is false. We need to check which are only true. So there is a broadcast activity that is also true. So there something might be related to all the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There might be related to the 5 part. Now let's see what are the thing that is written here for flag 2. Mm, let's see what's written here. So here it is saying that flag 2 activity is extending from android.appcomponent.appc, and it is taking a integer which is 0, and if it is matching, if this value is equal to 0, then activity are exported. And another thing that is being told to us, that exported activity can be accessed through ADB or dozer. Yeah, any activities can be exported through ADB or ADB, that I already told to you, because it's of functioning with directly with the internal application itself. So that's why. So we have to set on the listener. And there is also a class being told to us b3nc.android. So let's come back to the file and let's check for there are two. So as far we can see, there are two suspicious activity that are present. One is this one, which has b3, or that what is the name of the our package .b25l activity, and the second one is the qx001a, right? And another thing that is here I will take it, because if you check the next line from b25l activity, here it has written that this is responding to the string title activity flag 2, and the Android name is injured.flag2 activity. So all the flag 2 activity, so whatever the export that's related to flag 2 activity is related to this particular exported feature. So we will be using this particular exported feature. Okay. So let's see now how we can use this. So first of all, we have to enter into the Android shell. So we'll just type here ADB shell through the terminal that is present in the your Android Studio itself. You can also use your own CMD, but for that you need to connect to your Android emulator. Okay. So after connecting your Android emulator, just go to the shell by typing ADB shell and hit enter. Okay. Now after entering into the ADB shell, just start AM start, and what you need to do, we have to copy the activity that we are talking. So we want to array. So let's just copy this particular thing, and here we will just give a forward slash, and if you hit enter, okay, so I think we have to give a forward slash 7 Yeah, I am explaining the mstart command. Just a minute. Uh, we have to just make the features. Okay, so I was just having a confusion. So now if we just see, we are starting and we have got the second flag. Now let me explain what I am done. So we have to provoke this activity. We have to start this activity. Okay. So the activity that was set true is ba3.injured.android.b25l activity, right? Now we have to do what we have to do. We have to make sure that this particular activity get exported, and we have to poke this activity. So how we can perform poke this activity? So Android ADB has a feature known as AM start. Okay. So what AM start is does nothing but basically we are starting a particular feature. So AM start. So we are basically starting a particular feature, and that's why we can write AM start. Okay. So basically you are, if you want to start any kind of application, not only AM start, suppose you want to run any particular, suppose you are suppose this particular injured Android APK. You just want to run this APK. Then what you will write? AM start followed by the package manager of this APK. That is the name of this particular application. So if you are using Facebook, so if you want to start the Facebook from the ADB shell, you have to start AM start followed by the name of the package of Facebook. Okay. So that particular thing is I have done. So that is the use of AM start command. AM start is used to start any kind of application through ADB. And in order to invoke these particular features, I have just started AM. And after that, what I have done is, let me come back. So you might have get confused by all the particular gibberish, like why I have used the slash, because I was just, it was just a error from my side. So in order to start any particular part, so b3nac.injuredandroid is the package manager of the injured Android APK. Okay. And after that, the b25l activity was the activity part. Now, in order to invoke the particular activity, we have to execute it. And we can execute in, we know how we can execute, that is the slash dot slash. But in case of Android, we have to put the slash before the dot. Okay. And after that, we will invoke that particular activity on the particular package manager. Okay. Yeah, I hope you have got it. Okay. So that's how you can invoke a particular activity by starting a particular feature. And that's how we have successfully got the second flag also. Now, uh let's learn some other thing also, like let's some other features of Android. We shouldn't waste our time in this 1 hour webinar just on solving the labs, because you can solve it in other ways too. So we need to know some other feature, like, you know, where we are in. So we are in the Android shell, right? And whatever you are performing, you can access any particular feature. So suppose there is a feature on this, that is Android by default, Android logs all the activities that you are performing. So suppose if you open a particular app, then it will be kept in the like details, it will be kept of the particular app in the log file. So if we just say log cat, we can see, if you just notice, all the particular features, that all the applications that are still running, or all the services that are running in the particular our emulator, are being dumped into the log. Okay, you can see this is just the log. So now what you can actually do, so let's open a one application. So let's open this particular app known as login app, and here let's type a message known as ABC. And if we just send, we can see here, we can see the chat app, and this particular thing is known as ABC. And you can see the message is ABC here, and the message ID is 715. So actually, this is a vulnerable app. And so if the app is vulnerable, and if the app doesn't has any security protocol, so if we write anything or if we type anything in that particular application, so it might be any kind of chat application like your WhatsApp. Now WhatsApp is end-to-end encrypted, but if or any other app is not particularly encrypted, then whatever you type on that particular app, or whatever you are using on the particular app, it will be stored in the log of your application. Okay. So suppose if I type, my name is uh array, Yogi. And if I send this, so now you will also find this thing. You can see my name is Yogi and this is the message ID. So this is a particularly an example of insecure logging and insecure monitoring. So if your app or if your application or if the developer forgot to use any kind of encryption or it is not following certain WASP top 10 of Android, so it is using any kind of weak validation or weak encryption policy, then it will get dumped into the log. And what happens is any kind of application is actually able to access the log. So what an attacker can do, I will quickly create an APK which can access logs of the application. So what you will do, so if your application, suppose your banking application doesn't have any kind of protection when storing any file. So whenever you are writing your credit card number or you are typing your CVV into an app, by an what will be done, that particular CVV or in credit card or your details will be stored in your log. And what my application can do, after I will make sure you install my APK, that is my harmful APK, it will just access all of the log, and when I will dump the log, I will see your credit card information, right? So that's how, if the application, if developer doesn't make your application secure, or if the insecure logging vulnerability is there, then any malicious attacker or any hacker can access your sensitive information from the logs of the app. Okay, so actually we don't know, apart from using logcat, there are a lot of other features that also we can use. So let me just close it, and I will just clear this one. So now you can see logcat is very much, you can see it's very crumbly, right? Like you can see there are a lot of data, so whenever you have to find it's very hard, and also it's not very, like you can't see it, it's not very beautiful to see from eye perspective, right? So it's very messy. So what we can do, so there is another application actually present to check for insecure logging and monitoring kind of attacks, and that particular script is known as PID cat. So let me show you what PID cat is. So this is nothing but the logcat that I have used. It's the updated features. You can see it's a script written in Python, and it will give all the logs in much more compatible format, in much more in a format by which you can understand very easily. Okay, so this is a wrapper on logcat which helps you to see all the logs in a sophisticated manner. So let me show you how we can use it. So I have already the PID cat, that is the Python file already I have in my say. So let me just check. Yeah, I have downloaded the file. So if I open PID cat, I'll just click on the Python file and it will just open, and it will just at first will check all of the logs that are present. You can see. Now let's do one thing. Let's open our login app. Okay. So let's give a username like Yogi. Array. And let's put something like Yogi. Let's send. So you can see here in PID cat, this get much in the, so it get reflected much in sophisticated format. You can see like it is already saying this the chat app and the message ID is being clear, and here the message is Yogi, and also everything is much in a proper manner. You can see with the all the coloring and all the feature, you can see this particular Android has an PID ID of 13151. Its intent, everything is much more in a compact format, so that any it's very easy for any attacker or perform who are or any pen tester to understand what is going on. So generally, as an we love to use PID cat instead of the default logcat that you generally use, you generally see. So always try to use these particular features instead of logcat. So generally go to use PID cat. Okay, it's much more compact and it's much more easy. Backup mode. Backup mode. Can you tell us backup mode? It is depend on. So if backup is saved in cloud, then it won't be accessed in log. But if the backup is stored in locally on your server, that is, sorry, locally on your phone, then it can be accessed. Okay. So you need to understand this point. So backup, if it's the backup is stored on cloud, then it won't be reflected on Lockcat, and any as an attacker, I won't be able to see it. But if it's stored on locally on your phone, then it will be reflected on Lockcat. Sorry, it will be reflected on logs, and any application that will able that can view the log through Lockcat or any other features like this PID cat, we will able to see all the backup chats or anything. So don't store your backup on your local server. Okay. But again, if it is encrypted like WhatsApp, like WhatsApp is using WhatsApp also sometimes stored backup on your local phone. But what happens in this backup is the chat is encrypted and it is one-way encryption, and they are using some kind of hashes, and that is one way. So you possibly can't crack the hash. So that's why you can't able to get it, right? So that is also here, also a feature. Network issue, I don't know. I am not feeling any network issue from my side. So this is another example of static pen testing that I have shown you. Okay. So let's just move on to the another part, that is the dynamic testing, right? So let me just close the PID cat and let's just move on to the dynamic testing. So let's see what we can perform in the kind of dynamic testing. So if we are assigned any end-to-end mobile penetration testing, what are the activities we need to perform? You need to perform static and dynamic both. In case of a general mobile PT, you need to perform both static testing and dynamic testing. Also, sometimes you have to perform a lot others also, like you have to open your check for any kind of other exploits, like kernel exploits also. So that, but that will be written in case of engagement. Okay. So the generally dynamic testing tool that we generally use are the Buffsuit, Drozer, and Frida. In case of dynamic testing, Frida is the mother of all tools, and you need to use Frida almost everywhere. Whether it's SSL bypinning, whether it is bypassing emulator detection, whether it's bypassing root detection, whether it's hooking any particular app to broadcast any features, or whether it is to dump memory. FIDA is a separate tool you need to learn always and separately, because for reverse engineering or bypassing any kind of features inside any application, you need to use FIDA. Okay. And Buffsuit is all the tool, because for all the network and dynamic analysis, you need to study the network. And for this reason, Buffsuit is most. Okay. And Drozar is also the same thing. Drozar is actually help to find a lot of vulnerabilities much faster. Okay. You can actually use ADB to get into shell, or you can also use Drozar. So let's just learn about a few things. Let's see how we can actually check like the network of a particular application. Okay. So let me just show you guys. So let's install our APK. Okay. So let me just go to the downloads desktop and let's go to Android APK and let's just go to the. So this is actually a live app. Country Delight, you might have seen the Country Delight ads even. Uh, has it been installed? I think it's not installed. Let me just. Alright. Let me install the APK. Array. Uh, Screen is not visible. Let me just check. Yeah. So I am using one APK. That is Country Delight. This is an app, you must have seen this in ads quite guess, I guess. So I am using the original APK. Okay, let me just see, I have installed it. Now, it's asking for phone number, of course. So let's see if we can access all the intent or all the things in our web. So let me just open my box suit. And for intercepting Android traffic, what you have to do, you have to allocate a separate feed. Okay. So like you have to create a separate port. You can also do it on 8080, but you have to remove it. If you are using it directly to access web, then why? It will it might get overlapped. So just assign a separate port. Okay. So for my sake, I generally use 8082. You can use any other, and we will make it to all interfaces. Let's not intercept any traffic from web. Okay, so we have marked our proxy settings. Also in our Android, what you can do, I'll check for the settings through this particular thing is okay. So let's go to proxy, and you can set this particular date rate to, and just click on, and we will set up the proxy. Okay. Now what we can do, if I open country delight, and even if I type any random number here, uh, see, we are getting request. Okay. So this is the general way we can see we are getting all the particular features, that is we are getting all the requests in our Android in our box suit. Now SSL bypinning is already disabled here, but if you had to disable manually, then you had to use Frida. Okay. Now Frida is a, if I go going to start Frida at this particular point, it will take another 45 minutes. So I'll be avoiding it. But for your sake, what I can do is I will show you another app apart from Frida. And I think most of the pen tester won't tell you. But yes, this particular app, I also am telling this particular feature, this particular application might not work in every cases, just like, but Frida work almost in every cases depending on what script you are using. If it's a Flutter application, you have to use Flutter, or if you are using other application, you have to use other. But this particular application that I am going to tell you, that is the APK MITM. So try to install in your system this APK MITM. So this also helps you in actually decoding or removing the SSL pinning from any application. Okay. So I have already installed in my case APK MITM. If you see, it will give us this flag. And how to install APK MITM? So if I want to remove for this particular feature, so let me just copy this particular path, and APK, and after that you have to just give the name of the APK from where you actually want to remove your SSL certificate. Okay. So just give the name of the app and click on hit enter. And after that, APK will decode it. It will take some time. It will take 5 minutes because it will going to decode the APK file. Then it will applying patch. Then it will encode it. So it will take at least 5 minutes to remove the SSL pinning and then further signing in. Okay. So this might not work in every cases, but I have seen this mostly work in if the application is not very much secure, then APK MIT will work for 100% for sure. For other, we always have Frida in our arsenal because Frida is, you can see, the mother of all dynamic testing apps. Okay, so this is something important. Can you tell me how to stop Frida SSL pinning remediation? Yeah, I will come to it. So this is how generally we'll understand. So basically, so now what we can do for dynamic testing, we can see how we can intercept all the features, that is the traffic of an application into our Android. Now what we can do, so since all it has an Android, now all the traffic is in Android, what we can perform, it's in BART. So what we can do is generally we can, so this is the request for our quantity light for ATP. Now what we can do, we can perform brute forcing, or we can perform response manipulation, or we can perform all the other attacks that we generally do in case of web. Now we can perform all these similar attack in our Android itself, because we have successfully captured all the traffic from our target application into our burp suite. So this is how you can use burp suite to perform dynamic testing. Okay, so this is one of the way that you can understand, right? Now, so I think there are also other application like APK. Apart from APK, MITM, another thing that I would like to tell is the objection. So objection is another, sorry, this is GitHub. So objection is another application that we generally use for bypassing SSL in case of for bypassing SSL spinning certificate. Okay, so objection is another, and sometimes we use objection with FRIDA in order to bypass a lot of apps. Okay, so we use all these particular apps in general to work with. So that's it regarding our webinar, and I guess so. If you have any more questions, I will let's also talk about that. Okay. So for our webinar, this is all. So I hope you have liked the webinar. I hope you have understood some of the things. I hope you have understood what methodology you need to follow to get into Android pen testing for dynamic analysis and also for static analysis. Okay. So let's come on to the chat and let's see what you can use. Now let's start from first and let's see. Okay, for Android pen testing, what programming language you have to familiar with? Okay, so this is very actually very important question, because you have to understand, like for static analysis, you have to understand what it's being told. So you need to know a little bit of Android development, and not only that, in order to exploit features such as WebView or contain or broadcast receivers, if you want to exploit vulnerabilities in that, in those part, of course, what you have to do, you have to know Android development, because you have to generally script a lot of exploit in that language. So you basically need to know Android development a little bit. Okay. I think can you please tell me briefly what is the deep link issue? So deep link is basically, so if a particular the deep link issue is nothing but if any particular, so suppose we have a Android application, right? Now what happens in this Android application, there might be something, a particular features which you can open in your browser. Now by, if you can craft this particular, or you can make an exploit to make this particular, or to view this particular thing, this particular URL in such a way that you can leak some sensitive images, or you can leak some sensitive data, or you can perform any kind of cross scripting attacks, like not like XSS, or you can crypt, you can make attack like CSRF, or you can make any kind of changes in the server, or you can leak something, then that is known as the deep link issues. Okay. There are a lot of reverse engineering tools. FIDA is the main. You can also use GHDA. Generally, we use GHDA. And there are also our like APK leaks there, and there are lots of other ADB tools that you can use. Also, you can use any. But basically, you need to use APK tool and FIDA for main. These are the general you have to use. How to stop FIDA SSL pinning? Generally, if you come to the general kind of SSL pinning, you can actually stop that, because even if you disable through FIDA, what anyone can do is I can remove the SSL pinning directly from the app, then I can sign with Uber APK, and then I can put it. So completely you can disable SSL pinning. Okay, so that's why a lot of bug hunters in like past used to report SSL pinning as vulnerability, like SSL pinning bypass as vulnerability. But now it's not. It's not included in pentest, because even if you bypass FIDA, you can manually remove any kind of SSL. So it's not right. So you can't remove SSL completely. Can you please share some more resource for Android pen testing? Android pen testing, I think you can check FIDA's official documentation for Android pen testing. It's quite nice. And also there are other lot of researcher, you will Medium, you will find a lot of writings related to it. How do you perform static analysis when the application code is encrypted? What code is encrypted? That you have to tell. The SO files mainly. Java. Okay. So there is an options. Let me tell. Yeah, then they're not used. Let me tell you. Dex to jar. There is an option known as Dex to jar. So let me give you the link in chat. Dex to jar is there. From here you can decompile any Java. Open the application in Dex to jar. I am giving this in chat. Use it. Sorry, I think I have to send it to all. Okay. So you can use Dex to jar to bypass this. It will convert the Java code. Interviewer asks what question? No, then there is not use of SSL pinning because of FIDA. Yeah, you can FIDA can there are lots of ways that I think FIDA can be blocked, but SSL pinning completely bypass can't be blocked completely. Just at the end of the day, you can manually perform it also. So that thing can be blocked. So you have to think of that also, right? What will you do by stopping the Friday port if you manually change it? MobSF tool is used. It's actually you can say it's a directly a scanner. You can use directly it for dynamic testing and also for static testing. Static testing is free in the online version, but in dynamic testing you have to download it and set up on your local host. The session is recorded and it will be sent to all the person who have registered. Yeah, FIDA port 27042. That can be stored, but still I told. Please share with some good user. You can check mobile hacking labs. Mobile hacking labs are recently making good content on in mobile pen testing and Android pen testing. You can check the labs out. And I think that's it for the session, I guess.
So now just search razzsecurity.com/course/enter. Okay. And here we have a three different mode of that training: classroom training, online, and self-paced. So classroom training, like you will be coming to our headquarter, it in Bangalore, and you can learn under the guidance of trainer. Okay, so this all things today we have just performed this thing, but when you go into classroom training, you will go from basics, everything from basics, everything will be covered up with a proper guidance. Okay, so Linux practice, because Linux also very important. This all things will be covering one by one. Okay, so classroom training is there, then online training. Okay, so who are not able to come to Bangalore and doing the training, they can go with the online live classes, and here self-paced. Okay, so recorded videos are there. Who are comfortable with the recorded videos? Recorded videos also is not bad. Okay, so you can go with the recorded videos, and recorded videos personally have designed from me only. Okay, so my recorded videos are there in the self-paced. Okay, and the pricing also of this, we have did our best to keep it in the affordable pricing. Okay, So actual fees is around like 15,000. Okay, but currently we are giving it in 3,000 rupees. This course in 3,000 like lifetime access. Okay, of the course. Same topic. The topics are same only. And you can download the brochure actually. You can click here, the website. Yeah. So here it will be more deeply, and here roadmaps and all are there. You can get one idea. 15,000. But you just go with the online, like you can get a discount in 3,000. You can get it, and modules also. Everything is clearly we explain whatever is there, and yeah. So you can download this, and if you are interested, you can enroll it from here only. You can directly pay, and our team will coordinate with you, and they will add you in the group and all.